just go ahead with what you were saying. So we're
Okay.
starting now.
My name is Jonah Wright of Kansas City, Missouri, and today is September the 3rd, 2012. And I want to speak to you a little bit about the history of gospel singing, quartet singing in Kansas City, Missouri, starting back in the 50s. Um, my brother, Verma Wright, my late brother, Verma, was the, he started singing with the Ruffin Brothers Quartet of Kansas City, and he sang bass for them for many years. He used to appear on the radio on Sunday mornings, and he did a Sunday morning program like on KUDL, KPRS, KCLO in Leavenworth, and he would be on for half an hour, and he would gather sponsors for the program, and he would come on and he would play all of the quartets, like the Dixie Hummingbirds. He would play the Soul Stairs. He would play uh, the Blind Boys of Mississippi, the Blind Boys of Alabama, and all of those groups. And um, he used to book all of the groups into Kansas City at the Ivanhoe Temple on Linwood in Brooklyn. And when he would have them on Sundays, and they would people would come far and near. Back then, that was the great source of entertainment for people, and they would come early to get a seat, and there would be excitement because he would have told them, everyone on the radio, that the Blind Boys is coming to Kansas City. The Dixie Hummingbirds is coming to Kansas City. And when he couldn't get the Ivanhoe Temple, he would be at 910 Tracy Street at the Workers' Hall. I think that building's been raised by now. In fact, the uh, uh, Ivanhoe Temple building have been raised. And he started this way back, way back, and way back there in 1958. And the
Can you start over? Start from that sentence again. He started it.
he started uh, bringing these groups in here in 1958, all the way up to 1988, and he died in 1991. Now, about the Dixie Hummingbirds, the Dixie Hummingbirds started out in 1928, and they they don't exist anymore right now. But back in 2006, uh, cut that part out. In 2006, most of the hummingbirds, the original, had died, and Ira Tucker Sr. was the last man standing. They put out an album called The Last Man Standing, and he went out and he got a new group. And as far as I know, they are still singing. But the original group, only the guitar player, Howard Carroll, the guitarist, for more than 50 years. He's living in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania with his wife, and I call him up and talk with him every now and then, and cheer him on. I believe he's 89 years old. He wouldn't want me to tell you that, but the Lord has blessed him all these years, and he tells me many stories about the traveling across the country when my brother Vermer would bring them into Kansas City. So the Dixie Hummingbirds was always my famous group, and I love the Dixie Hummingbirds. Right now, I'm in touch with Ira Tucker Jr., who is produced the Dixie Hummingbirds records. Been their producer for many, many, many years.
So, what is why was Kansas City able to draw big names like the Dixie Hummingbirds, which you recorded?
Well, I guess because Kansas City is located in kind of in the center of the United States, and many of those groups, for an example, the Dixie Hummingbirds, they worked out of and lived in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and usually every January and February in cold weather, they would go down and do many programs in Florida where the weather was warmer, and then they would be on their way out to Los Angeles. And of course, they would stop in Mobile, Alabama, and they would stop in Little Rock, Arkansas, and Fort Smith, Arkansas. And my brother would have them here, like on a Sunday evening at 3 o'clock. And then that night at 8 o'clock, they would be in Topeka, Kansas. And the next night at 8 o'clock, they would be in Denver. And maybe the next night, they would be in Salt Lake City and other places, all the way to California. And then they would work their way across California up to San Francisco, and then back to Philadelphia. And they would stay there at home for maybe 6 weeks, and they would go to Europe, or they would go up to Seattle and take another journey across country and back again. And they did that for many years. They were in Madison Square Garden many times, and the Apollo Theater, and many, many of the big places.
What is Kansas City's contribution to gospel music? Was it its central location on the Gospel Highway? What was its contribution to gospel
Well,
music?
they could draw big crowds here. People love quartets and gospel singing, and they had some pretty interesting people here in Kansas City, like the Ruffin Brothers and the Kansas City Melody Airs and many, many other groups.
What was the importance of popularity of quartets like the Ruffin Brothers and others?
Well,
What was the importance of that?
they told a story about how things were, and it was all about the gospel and religion, and and then many ministers would promote them and have them at their church and all around.
What were the Kansas City venues like back then when they were popular?
Well, mostly the big, like Ivanhoe Temple, and the Transit Workers Hall and some of the larger churches would bring them in, and like the Blind Boys of Alabama and Brownlee, Blind Boys of Mississippi, and they would wear tuxedos, and they call it a battle of songs, and people, you wouldn't have, it would be crowded, um, and everybody loved to hear them sing.
Here, can you say that one more time? The How many people would go? Were there a lot of shows back then?
Yes, I don't know the seating capacity of Ivanhoe Temple, but it was several decks, and they would always be crowded. I couldn't tell you uh, what the seating capacity was.
And so your brother, he had a gospel radio show. How important was radio in spreading gospel music?
Well, um, one of the first black, the Carter Corporation, KPRT, they were the first black radio station in Kansas City, and they played plenty gospel music. And then there was KUDL. My brother used to gather sponsors, and he would come on Sunday mornings, and with the Brother Wright Gospel Hour. And then he would, there were KKFI, they're still going, and he used to be on there. And there were a few other stations that he was on Sunday mornings for half an hour.
So how important was radio in spreading gospel music? What was the importance, the significance of radio for gospel music?
Well, it was a good way to get listeners because the rock and roll and everything else were pretty popular. And back then, on Sunday, for sure, you would hear the gospel program. So it was very important back then to have the gospel programs.
Mm-hmm. Would you say Kansas City was one of the leaders in gospel radio back in the 50s and into the 60s?
Yes, I would say so in Kansas City.
Can you rephrase that?
I would say so in Kansas City that they were very important in spreading the gospel in Kansas City.
What was? Can you use radio in 50s and 60s and spreading the gospel? Because I need to get your words.
The light went out.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Okay. Here, let me get a new battery.
Mm-hmm.
When I ask these questions, can you try to kind of say the question back with what you're saying, with the answer? You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay.
There we go. Okay. So back to the radio. So how important was radio, and would you say Kansas City was one of the leaders in gospel radio back in the 50s and 60s?
Kansas City was leading back in the 50s and 60s. They were one of the leaders of gospel music, not only on Sundays, but segments in the mornings and in the afternoons, and some even at midnights on gospel music back then.
That's cool. So why do you think Kansas City hasn't gotten the name recognition nationally like some cities such as Chicago, Memphis, LA, and some others.
The light went out again.
All right. Okay. Use a different battery.
Mm-hmm.
One doesn't work, we'll use another.
Okay. Now you were asking me
I,
about
so
Kansas City.
yeah, why do you think Kansas City hasn't gotten the name recognition nationally, like some other cities such as Chicago, Memphis, LA, and others?
Well, I can't agree with that because, um, like Kansas City is noted for barbecue and blues down on 18th Street, and a lot of the groups, gospel groups that came out of Memphis and those other cities, they came to Kansas City. My brother Verma used to bring them here, and several times a year. And when they would be on their way across country, they would make sure that they would stop in Kansas City, and people always look forward to it. So it's always been a good place for gospel to come and stop in Kansas City and eat barbecue and everything else that Kansas City has to offer.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so yeah, sometimes these questions they get a bit naive so that you can bring out what needs to be said.
Uh-huh.
What were some of the biggest influences on the development of gospel music in Kansas City? Um, like what was here already that made it happen? What were some big influences on gospel in Kansas City?
Well, I think um, some of the gospel groups that came out of Kansas City um, way back when, and some of the ministers here um, were able to bring other groups into Kansas City. So that that's the way as I see it.
And um, so your brother was in the Ruffin Brothers.
Yeah, he sang bass for them, and they had a Kansas City quartet union, and it was made up of maybe 20 groups. And once every quarter, one Sunday, every quarter, every 3 months, they would be at one church or another at 3 o'clock in the evening, and time they all did 2 or 3 numbers, it would be 8 o'clock at night. And then my brother with the Ruffin Brothers, they were on the radio. They had a radio program once a week, and on 15 minutes, and they had a sponsor, and a lot of people would come out to see and hear them. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay, so I've I've gone through all my questions on here, so I've asked you, everything we need for this. You have a whole lot of stuff here. What else is it that you would like to get on tape?
Well, here's the Soul Stirrers out of Chicago, and Sam Cooke. Everybody remembers Sam Cooke. He started out with them, and in 1952, I believe, he went out on his own, and many people will remember a song that put him on the charts, "You Send Me," and but the group kept on singing, and they had Johnny Taylor took his place, and Johnny Taylor he's deceased now, but he was a blues singer, and he sang with them for quite a while. And then there was the Blind Boys of Alabama. Um, Clarence Fountain was the lead singer of the Blind Boys of Alabama, and they used to come to Kansas City. And but right now, well, in 2006, he came down with diabetes and a kidney um, problem. So he's on dialysis, and he lives in Atlanta, Georgia, and he can't travel with the groups anymore. But one of the guys who started out with him, uh, Jimmy Carter, and he's 80, almost 90 years old as of today, and they were in Kansas City not long ago, and he's the only original group. All the other guys, uh, uh, some of them are blind and some of them are not, but they still travel as the Blind Boys of Alabama. And some of the other groups, um, like the Golden Gate Quartet of way back in the 40s, and the Pilgrim Travelers. Um, Lou Rawls used to sing with the Pilgrim Travelers, and before he started on his own. And there was the Trumpeters. That's an older group. They used to sing. They don't sing anymore. And then there was the Fairfield Four. I don't have a picture of them, but the Fairfield Four of Tennessee and the Spirit of Memphis. And I could just go on and on and on about the quartets that used to sing and come through Kansas City, Missouri.
Is there any more you'd like to talk about?
Well, I believe I've talked out.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's all I have then for you.
All right.
That was a good 30 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
All
I
right.
think I've covered everything.
Okay, well then
Uh-huh.
we're good.
All right.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Out if
Yeah.
where you can get. Okay.
Yeah, we'll try and get it mastered for you so we can have you know, you can get good use out of it and listen to it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let me attach this right.
Okay. Here's another. Here's one that I put go out to the programs whenever they're in your town.
Yeah.
I didn't give Paul concerts. And
Oh.
he took certain numbers.
Back in the 60s?
Yeah.
Wow.
And his wife got that on the website.
Oh,
and
wow.
I gave it to your dad in the letter.
Okay.
So go. I want you to go and download it. I don't know anyone. Well, my grandson up in Minnesota.
Mhm.
He's a lawyer and he's so busy, but he can download.
Okay.
But if you can download a number of those concerts, and she said some of those numbers, the numbers are only maybe 7 minutes.
Mhm.
Some of them 5 minutes.
Okay.
He's
So if
great
you-
at computers. He'll be
Okay.
able to download it for sure.
Okay, and it's free. They put it on that, and they want people to download it
Yeah.
and enjoy it.
Okay.
So if you can you can burn me one.
All right. Yeah.
I
Well,
sure would.
okay, we'll get in touch with him.
Uh-huh.
I'll talk to my dad and see if I can get that website from him. And then
Okay.
we'll get in touch with those
Well, I
people.
gave it to him. It's on
Okay.
tape.
Well, great.
All right.